My wife stood in the kitchen, barefoot, pouring herself sparkling water like it was champagne, and casually said the one sentence that broke me in half. If I had one wish, I'd pick a different husband. She didn't shout it. She didn't cry. She said it like she was ordering takeout. I didn't say anything back. Not because I'm strong, but because my tongue literally froze. My whole body did. I felt like I was watching a movie about my life, and I already hated the main character, me. The kicker? She said it while wearing the hoodie I bought her last Christmas. The one she called our little love blanket. Now it just felt like irony draped over her shoulders. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask, why not just leave me then? But instead, I mumbled, okay, and started loading the dishwasher. Yeah, that was my big comeback. She didn't explain herself. She just walked out of the room humming a song I didn't recognize. Like nothing happened. But something did happen. A switch flipped. That night, I went into the guest room and sat at the edge of the bed for 3 hours straight. No music, no lights, just silence and thoughts. I opened my laptop, typed 3 words into Google, divorce preparation guide. Then I deleted it, because part of me still hoped it was just a bad joke. That maybe she was tired, stressed, anything but serious. The truth? She was already gone, emotionally, and I was the last to find out. I didn't ask her to explain, maybe because I was afraid she would. Instead, I watched her live like nothing happened, like she hadn't just dismantled years of marriage with a single sentence. The next morning, she made coffee. For herself. Left the dirty mug in the sink. Left the door open while brushing her teeth, humming that same strange melody. I started noticing everything. The little things that never used to matter suddenly screamed at me. Her phone never left her hand. She laughed more often, but never with me. Her texts came in constantly, but she never replied in front of me. She dressed differently, less like a woman married 6 years, and more like a woman trying to be noticed. I didn't sleep for days. I couldn't. I'd lie in bed, listening to the hallway creak under her steps at midnight, 1:13 a.m., 3:47 a.m. She claimed she couldn't sleep either. Insomnia, she said. Brain won't shut off. But her brain had plenty of energy when I finally checked the phone bill. It was Thursday night. She said she was going to her coworker Lena's place for a late wine thing. That phrase itself made me twitch. A wine thing. Like she couldn't even pretend anymore. I said nothing. Just nodded. As soon as she left, I pulled up the phone account, something I hadn't checked in years. We still had a shared plan. I clicked through the call logs. And there it was. One number. Over and over. Late night calls. Middle of the day texts. Always the same one. I searched it online, expecting nothing. But I got a name. Elias Varga. I didn't recognize it at first. But then I remembered, a substitute art teacher she mentioned once during a work rant months ago. He's all broody and poetic, she said with an eye roll. Talks like he's in a Czech art house film. I thought she was mocking him. Apparently, she was memorizing him. He worked 2 train stops away. I know because I looked him up. Saw his staff photo. And then I did something I never thought I'd do. I went through her closet. It wasn't about the clothes. It was about the scent. The lip gloss I hadn't seen her wear in years. The necklace, she said, was too flashy when I gave it to her. Now suddenly, in rotation again. I was building a case in my head, like some sad detective in a story where I was both the victim and the fool. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I sat back down at the kitchen table, opened my laptop again, and wrote one sentence in a blank document. She wanted a different husband. Fine. So I became one. That was the beginning of the shift. Not revenge. Not rage. Just transformation. If she could rewrite the rules, so could I. It's strange what you tell yourself just to survive a lie you already know is true. I kept thinking, maybe it's just emotional. Maybe they text, maybe they flirt, but maybe she hasn't crossed that line. As if that would somehow make it better. As if betrayal needs a hotel key to count. Friday came. She left the house in a rush, claiming she was going to a gallery opening after work. Said she'd be late. She didn't say goodbye, didn't kiss me, just adjusted her earrings in the mirror and walked out like we were nothing more than distant roommates. I waited 5 minutes after the door shut. Then I followed. I knew the gallery. I checked their site. No event listed that night. But I didn't go there. I went to the train station she always used. Parked my car behind the bus terminal. I wore a hoodie and a pair of sunglasses like I was in some bad crime movie. My heart felt like it was trying to punch its way out of my chest the entire time. I saw her. Platform 3. Bright green coat. Hair curled. That same necklace I bought her when we were still in love. She was on the phone, smiling, laughing. Then the call ended, and she started texting. Probably him. Then I saw something that killed the last part of me, still clinging to hope. She wasn't going to a gallery. She was going to him. I trailed her. Yes, like a creep, onto the 7:18 train. She sat near the window. I stayed 3 rows back. She never looked around. She didn't need to. She was in her own world. She got off downtown, walked 2 blocks, and then turned left into a small hotel. Not a chain. One of those boutique ones with stone arches and frosted glass doors. I didn't follow her in. I didn't have to. I just stood across the street, watching. 10 minutes later, I saw him. Tall, shaggy hair, long black coat like he thought he was in a novel. He walked in without hesitation, without even checking if anyone was watching. He'd done this before. He expected her to be there. I stood in the cold for another 40 minutes. I don't know why. Maybe I was waiting for them to come out and look guilty. Maybe I thought she'd have the decency to look scared, or ashamed, or anything at all. But nothing happened. The door stayed shut. The street stayed quiet. And so I went home. Alone. Sat on the edge of our bed, our marriage bed, and stared at the pillow where she usually slept. I could still smell her perfume. And something inside me snapped. This wasn't just infidelity. This was performance. She had turned me into an understudy in my own life. So I decided to rewrite the script. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling like it might blink first. The silence in the house was louder than ever. I kept hearing the sound of her voice in my head. A different husband. Over and over. Like a curse I accidentally granted. She came home past midnight. Quiet, tiptoeing, careful not to wake me. But I wasn't asleep. I just kept my eyes shut, pretending. I heard the zipper of her boots. The faint click of her phone being set on the dresser. A soft giggle to herself. God knows why. Then she crawled into bed next to me and let out a relaxed sigh. She smelled like someone else's cologne. She didn't touch me. Not even accidentally. That bed might as well have had a brick wall between us. By morning, I knew what I was going to do. No screaming. No confrontations. I wasn't going to play the jealous husband. I was going to make her see what it's like to live with someone who sees everything and says nothing. I left a note on her nightstand. Just 3 words. Wish granted. Goodbye. But I didn't leave the house. Not yet. I just made myself invisible. I stopped making coffee for both of us like I used to. I stopped waiting for her in the kitchen. I stopped asking how her day was. I became a shadow, quiet, polite, and distant. And it shook her. By day 3, she started noticing. Asking questions. You okay? Did I do something? I gave the same polite smile every time and said, nope. All good. Her favorite line, weaponized. She tried initiating small talk. I gave 1-word replies. She tried to hug me once. Out of habit, maybe. I stepped back and said, I have to get to work. The more indifferent I became, the more curious she got. By the end of the week, she confronted me in the kitchen. Said I was acting cold. Said I wasn't being myself. That's when I finally looked her in the eyes and said the most honest thing I'd said in years. You don't want who I am. And I finally accepted that. She looked stunned. Not angry. Wounded. Because for the first time, she wasn't in control of the scene. She thought she was writing the story, but I had flipped the pen back in my hand. And I still hadn't told her what I knew. She started waking up before me. That was new. She used to sleep through alarms, hit snooze 5 times, then yell at me for not waking her up properly. But now she was up before sunrise, always dressed, always going somewhere. She'd kiss me on the forehead like I was a pet. I didn't flinch. I didn't ask where. I just watched. I had nothing left to lose. That changes a man. One morning, she forgot to close her laptop. Rookie mistake. It was on the armrest of the couch, screen still glowing. I didn't go looking, but it was there, open, like it wanted to be seen. I moved the touchpad. No password. Just a browser window with tabs. The first few were harmless, shopping sites, Pinterest boards, Spotify. Then I found a Google Doc titled The Draft. I clicked. It wasn't a novel. It was a letter. A long, brutal, honest letter. Written to him. Never sent. At least not yet. She wrote about me. She said I was a soft place to land, but never a place to fly. She said I was stable, kind, but lacking that wildfire. She said she loved how I loved her, but that she didn't feel anything anymore. Not for me. And then I found something worse. In another tab, a private email thread, her alternate Gmail account, one I didn't even know existed. And in that thread, something chilled me to the core. It wasn't just him. It wasn't only the teacher with the long coat and poetic nonsense. There was another man. A second one. Someone from her past. Someone she had reconnected with 6 months ago, long before I ever saw the signs. I scrolled through the messages. Hotel bookings. Flight itineraries. She had traveled with him. Lied to me about a women's wellness retreat in June. I remembered that trip. I drove her to the airport. She cried happy tears when I dropped her off. Said she was grateful I supported her growth. Turns out she was grateful I didn't ask questions. I closed the laptop gently. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. I sat on the couch in complete silence and realized I wasn't the husband. I was the alibi, the loyal, dumb decoy. And the worst part? I still loved her. But now, love wasn't the thing keeping me quiet. It was something else. Something sharper. Something I hadn't felt in years. Clarity. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. I was going to wait. Let her believe the show was still hers. But soon, I would be the one pulling the curtains. I had 2 names now. 2 faces. 2 men she thought she was keeping in neat little compartments while I folded towels and paid bills. I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt curious. Not about her. About them. The men. The ones she escaped to when I wasn't enough. I wanted to see what kind of fantasy she was chasing. So I tracked one down. Not through stalking, through receipts. Remember the boutique hotel? I called. Told them I left a charger in room 412 the other week. Oh yes, the woman said. That was under Mr. Varga's name. She even offered to hold it at the desk. That's all I needed. The following Thursday, I drove downtown. Stood outside that same hotel, not hiding this time. I had no sunglasses, no hoodie. I was done pretending. At 6:47 p.m. he showed up. Tall, sharp features, long charcoal coat. Looked like the kind of guy who never washed a dish in his life. He walked with that lazy confidence like the world would always open for him. I stepped in front of the door before he entered. He looked up, startled. "Excuse me," he said, reaching for the handle. I didn't touch him. Didn't raise my voice. Just stared and said, "I think you know who I am." He paused, blinked, then tilted his head like a child caught stealing candy. "I'm sorry," he lied. "I'm not here to fight," I said. "I just have one question." He nodded slowly. "Waiting. What do you think happens next? When the illusion breaks? When she starts calling you boring, too?" He didn't have an answer. He tried to say something poetic. I didn't mean to, but I cut him off. "She told me she wanted a different husband. And she found you. So thank you." He looked confused. I stepped aside. "Go ahead. She's waiting." He didn't move at first. But then he walked past me, slow, unsure. Like he suddenly realized the story wasn't as romantic as he thought. I didn't follow him. I got back in my car. Drove away. No yelling. No scenes. But that night, I started packing. Not just bags. Evidence. Emails. Records. Screenshots. Everything. Because this wasn't going to end in heartbreak. This was going to end with proof. I didn't sleep. Again. But this time it wasn't from heartbreak. It was strategy. I stayed up organizing everything into a private folder, one I labeled, just in case. I copied emails, screenshots, call logs, hotel receipts, calendar entries. I wrote a summary of everything I'd seen, everything I'd read, everything she had become. Not for revenge. For clarity. Because gaslighting only works when you don't have the facts. And I was done doubting myself. The next morning, I handed her a manila envelope. Quietly. No drama. Just placed it on the kitchen counter while she poured her morning coffee. She looked at it, then at me. "What's this?" she asked, her voice still half asleep. "A choice," I said, "before I make one of my own." She didn't touch it, just stared like it might explode. She didn't deny it. Not one word. That told me everything. I walked away and sat on the couch. I didn't need to stand over her. I didn't need to pressure her. I just waited. She eventually opened the envelope. Read maybe 10% of it before closing it again. Then she laughed. Not loud. Not hysterical. Just a small, disbelieving laugh like she'd found the whole thing beneath her. She didn't say, "I'm sorry." She didn't ask how I found out. She didn't even try to explain. She just asked, "Is this what you've been doing? Playing detective while I've been falling out of love?" That's when I realized the truth. She wasn't ashamed. She wasn't afraid of being caught. She wanted this. Not the exposure, but the destruction. She'd been trying to kill our marriage slowly, through emotional erosion. But when that didn't work fast enough, she set fire to it and hoped I'd be the one to leave. She didn't want a clean break. She wanted to be the victim. "You're not even angry," she said. "No," I replied. "I'm just finished." She blinked. That's when she finally looked scared. Because she expected rage, tears, a breakdown. She expected proof that I still cared. But I wasn't giving her that. I wasn't going to validate her cruelty by reacting. I stood up, grabbed my bag, walked to the door. "You don't have to do this," she said, her voice suddenly small. I turned to her. "Neither did you." And then I left. 6 months. That's how long it's been since I left. Since I packed my things into 2 suitcases and walked out of that house without slamming a door or saying goodbye twice. I moved into a small apartment 2 cities over. No luxury, just peace. That's something people don't tell you after a breakup. Silence can be terrifying at first, until it becomes sacred. The first few weeks were hard. I kept expecting her to call, to yell, to beg, to gaslight. But she didn't. The silence wasn't just from my side. It was hers, too. And that's how I knew the story had always been about control, not love. I started running in the mornings. At first just to burn off the shakes, but later because I needed rhythm. Something I controlled. I started reading again. I found a new job, remote, flexible. I even started therapy. Yeah, the whole cliché. But guess what? It worked. The therapist didn't tell me anything revolutionary. She just asked the one question I'd never asked myself during the entire marriage. What would you do with your life if you stopped trying to prove you were lovable? That question shattered me. And it also saved me. I began writing again. Not just emails or documents, real writing. Stories. Thoughts. A journal I didn't burn. And somewhere in that process, I stopped feeling like a failure. I started feeling like someone who survived a fire and finally smelled clean air. And then, last week, I got a message. From her. No subject line. No apology. Just 3 words. "You were right." That's it. I didn't reply. Not because I hate her. I don't. I wish her growth. I wish her clarity. But I also wish for her to remember that I was enough. She just wasn't looking for love. She was looking for escape. And I stopped being her exit plan. Now, I'm rebuilding. Not fast. Not flashy. But real. And that's better than anything I ever had with her.